So this whole project started a couple months ago when we were asked to give a reflection at Vespers. So Father Greg Malovitz asked us to reflect on the Good Samaritan parable. And so Julie and I started thinking about it, and of course we read it and thought about it, but we were sort of sweating it out because we couldn't figure out how we would pull together a Vespers talk out of the Good Samaritan parable.
And the theme was mercy.
Yes.
So using that parable to talk about mercy and compassion.
And after a few weeks of, what are you going to talk about at Vespers? What are we going to talk about at Vespers? What are we going to talk about at Vespers? Julie had a great idea.
Yeah. My mom has so many stories about when she and her family were escaping Ukraine, their home. And she tells these stories sometimes to audiences, but since we've had the chance to hear a lot of them, one that particularly stood out in my mind and one that Mark used in his book, I thought was really, would be an effective way to talk about mercy and compassion.
And as fate would have it, right around that same time was when Russia invaded Ukraine again. So it hit home.
Yeah, so that was an excellent idea. Thank you. And we really thought that telling the story first would be a great way to capture the attention of everybody, and it really did. And then followed up with my reflection on it. And it's a little bit of a lengthy story, so it was interesting to see the way people responded to it initially. I think there were some questions about where this was going, right?
Yeah. The audience, you could see their eyes where they were hearing the story, but they couldn't make the connection with Julie or
the Good Samaritan parable.
Right.
Yeah.
So it was neat how Julie's idea tied everything together. It tied the parable together, it tied the story together, and it tied her family together. So it was a stroke of genius.
Thank you.
So why don't, first of all, let's just, I was trying, when I was thinking about the Good Samaritan, I was trying to think of what is the Good Samaritan to me? Really, it's how can you be a good neighbor? How can you be of service to whoever you come in your path? And of course, as the story goes, Jesus is asked by a law student, what makes a good neighbor? And he tells the story about how someone who is robbed and laying on the side of the road, injured, what happens at that time? And several people pass along. Why don't you tell
the first one? A priest. A priest sees this person who has been beat up and robbed on the side of the road, and instead of going to this person and coming to his aid, he actually crosses the street and walks on by. And then another person, a Levite, comes by and sees this person, and they were apparently of different cultures, and it was not something that the Levite wanted to go near, so he also passed by this man. And it wasn't until a Samaritan came through and looked at this person with compassion and came to his aid and fixed up his scratches and his wounds and helped him to an inn and gave the innkeeper money and said let him stay here for as long as he needs to, make sure he has food, take care of him, and if this money isn't enough, when I come back through, I'll give you more. And so this was the Samaritan was a person who was unknown to this person who was robbed. And just the compassion that he had really is a great lesson for all of us in not looking beyond what skin color a person has or what religion they might be or what country they might be from, and just seeing the humanity. And that's what that Samaritan was able to do.
Yeah. And most people know the word Good Samaritan, but I don't know if they actually know the story. So as we began thinking about that, it turned us toward mercy, which was what our reflection was about. So why don't you tell your part of the story, and I'll tell mine.
Really?
Yeah.
Like, start at the end?
I don't know. Maybe we ought to try.
Huh. Okay. So, mercy. When I was in high school, a lot of my relatives lived with us. We had a cousin that lived with us for a period of time. I had a variety of aunts that lived with us. I had one grandmother live with us, my father's mother, and then my mother's mother and father lived with us for a period of time. My mother's mother we called Babcia, and Babcia didn't speak English, and I complained a lot about her lengthy lectures. She was a woman of great faith, and she always wanted to bless me and my siblings whenever we went anywhere, including to the bus stop. So I rolled my eyes a lot, and I had to sit through these lectures, and I never really understood this faith that my grandmother had and why it was so important to her to always keep that faith in the forefront. And then my mother told me the story, and the story that Mark will share. And after hearing that story, my perspective was changed. My idea of who my Babcia was and what kind of fortitude she had and why she did the things that she did in my household, really, it became very clear to me. Should I continue on? Or would you like to tell the story?
I'm happy to tell the story. Why don't we tell the story and then you finish it up?
Yeah.
Okay.